hand for Sister Myra Moss. Also she's utilizing, I see, the Celestial Ship of the North book. So if you don't have any copies, we got some copies on hand, which one was banned up until 93 till I found out about it. It was banned and all, and we'll get into that type of stuff. So I don't even need to even say nothing. The sister gonna do her thing and all, so you go ahead and do what you gotta do. All right, so give a black hand again. All right.
Give me a moment, I want to light up my little altar here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, you need some of this? Are you good to go?
No, I'm good to go.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm making a little trip to the hotel room. What? What? Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Now, I want to explain these candles here because as far as when you're setting up your altar, you want to know what these colors are for. Like you see, I have the red up front because there's an Aries energy. Okay? Aries energy, and that's for the red. Okay?
Okay. How we gonna do this? Well, I'm gonna let you be comfortable.
Okay.
What way you want to put it?
Okay. He said on the belt. I think.
Okay. You back the utility belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's.
Okay. Then I guess we just.
Stick that there.
Is that good?
Yes.
Let me see. You want it on the other side? You adjust it the way you want.
This good.
Okay.
It's good.
Justin, is that on?
As long as it works. Do you hear it? Is it working?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Now, the red is for the fire, okay? And that's for the Aries energy we're in right now. I want you to understand that the Aries, we're talking about new beginnings, see? We're talking about the spiritual warriors. So get used to the idea that we're in a spiritual war at this time. It is time for war, okay? But from a spiritual perspective, okay? So that's what the red candle is for. The light blue candle is for air, and that's because we have a full moon coming up tomorrow. And the full moon is always in the opposite sign of the sun. So that means that it's in the Libra. The full moon will be in Libra, which is the opposite sign of Aries. So that's the reason I have these two candles here. The green is for the earth, and the dark blue is for the water. Okay? Now, anytime you have your altar, you want the fire, which is with the candles. You want the air, which is the incense. So I could have lighted on the other. Okay. And you want your earth, which is like the stones, the crystals, and of course, the water. Now, first thing I want to do is go ahead and I am going to welcome our ancestors. You know, I welcome you all here today. I'm glad to see you. But we also have to welcome our ancestors, you know, to fill these seats and bring their energy. And they're going to be the ones that guide us and lead us into this new age that we're moving into, because we're definitely moving into a new paradigm. So I want to say welcome to the ancestors. And I was going to pour the libation to that. Ashe. Okay. Now, I'm Sister Myra, as Bobby have said, and I want to thank Bobby and Delbra for inviting me to participate in this conference. This is my debut as far as the lecture go, and I'm really very happy to be here. So let's go ahead and get started here. Now, the first thing I want to do now, I see some of you here are some of my old students, some of my old class, and you know, I'm glad to see you. I want to welcome you. Some of this material may seem a little familiar to you, but you know, I got enough new stuff so that you know, it'll all work in there together. So I want to start off by saying that our ancestors knew to look toward the stars, the planets, and the constellations for answers to universal questions. They also knew that the universe was too huge to get any answers unless it was dissected into symbolic understanding. Symbols can be applied to thousands of words. They knew that in order to be able to grasp the meaning of the messages from the vast cosmos, that even the symbols would need to be personified as gods and deities to best describe the particular energy they observed unfolding through the cycles of seasons. Even the deities that personify the energies needed to have surnames to differentiate characteristics of each deity. Okay? So what we're saying here is that this is how gods and deities came into being, you know, just by identifying the characteristics of the energies. It's all about the energies. A lot of people don't know to apply that spirit to the energies. It's a collective. Okay? Anytime we're talking physical, we're talking individual. Anytime we're talking spiritual, we're talking a collective. Actually, it's like in the spirit of, you see. That's a collective. That's the reason why we have to continue to balance things between the personal, you know, and the collective, see. And when we're doing it from a personal perspective, we're talking physical. But when we're doing it from a collective perspective, we're talking spiritual. So the first thing I want to read, like Bobby mentioned, the celestial ship of the north, because a lot of what I'm talking about, and the name of my lecture, by the way, is An Ancient Return for a New Beginning. This is what I'm lecturing on. And the first book I want to go to for that is this Celestial Ship of the North. And I want to read just a little bit out of there to set the stage for what the message I'm trying to get to impart here today. Talking about the Great Mother, it says, the Holy Spirit was Virgo, the virgin of the Zodiac who bore the Immaculate Sun. She was the great nurse of all existence. She was wisdom. She was the power of God, more beautiful than the sun, and when compared with the light, she is found before it. She was the mother of the gods. She has been imaged as intensely black, her bosom bare, crowned with a golden pyramid about which twined an immense serpent. Night and darkness belong as symbols to this very great antiquity. A superabundance of darkness metaphysically is light. Darkness adopted illumination in order to make itself visible. Out from the boundless abyss of darkness, acted upon by divine power, came the holy light. The reflection of the great Immaculate Mother, to whom the name of the astral light had been given, a name never given to the Father or the fatherless Son of the Immaculate Mother, who was placed on the physical plane as the lowest of the manifestation. And what I want to demonstrate by this is that it began with the feminine, okay? Right. Began with the feminine. And what happened was that as the feminine represented the lunar time. And as we moved into the solar time, that took us into the masculine. And then the feminine, the Great Mother, then took a back seat to the father. Instead of it being the mother and son, how it originated, it came to be the father and son, you see. And so what is happening at this present time, though, is we're reversing back to the time of the beginning. Thank you. Okay. So let's see. So I'm going to move on and read a little more here. It says, the original mother, Typhon, because that's how she was identified, Typhon energy, Lady of the Heavens, was mother of the male child known as Sut, who grew up to be her consort and who eventually became his own father in the character of the generator. Okay? First, we see the sun, and if you look at the mother, see, the Great Mother, Nut, is actually symbolic of the blackness of the universe. Okay? That's the blackness of the universe. And her son Okay, Sut was actually S-U-N, or S-O-N. That's how you equate the two, the sun. So we're talking about the blackness of the universe who birthed forth her first son, which is a literal son, or, for us to understand it, we had to look at it as her offspring, her son. So, but we have to see things in a holistic view now, see. What's been happening is we've been operating strictly from a physical perspective, and we've been seeing things in a literal light rather than seeing things holistically. That means combining the physical with the spirit to have a whole, to have completion. So what we want to do is be able to make that jump from the physical to the spiritual, because as above, so below, always, but only coming within its opposite. And it's only when you bring two opposites together that you form a whole. That's creation. That's creation, okay? So it says, first we see the son who grows into the father. And true to spiritual principle, to the principle of opposition, the mother reverts into the daughter, which is the earth, okay? Now, I want to keep everything so that you can follow me, because I got a lot of information here and I got a little time to try to present it in. Let's see, page 12, a little more from here. Okay. These creative forces or powers were always known as gods, and the higher gods of antiquity were always sons of the mother before they became sons of a father. Sut, Horus, Shu, and others never had a father. In their origins, they were male-female, as were all the ancient gods. Zeus was often called the beautiful virgin. Venus has been found bearded. The original Apollo was bisexual. Horus is given in both sexes. Horus and Isis are found to interchange. In the vision of St. John in the book of Revelations is found the Logos, now connected with Jesus, hermaphrodite, and portrayed with female breasts. Jehovah was originally female, and on a Babylonian tablet, Venus is depicted as a male at sunrise and a female at sunset. Okay? What happened here is that, like we said, we went into a reversal at the time that we moved into the solar rule. Then we went into the father rule, where the mother was pushed back and she was made the lowest on the physical plane, see. So then we look at, and see, what you bring together, and a lot of people are surprised to understand this, but the connection is made mother and son, and it's father and daughter. Those two energies are what works together. That's how they made their appearance in that order. Mother and son, then father and daughter. Okay? And that, when we went to the father and daughter, that was the reversal of the mother and the son. Okay? And that's when we moved more into our physical realm. We moved into the physical connotation of who we are versus the spiritual. Let's see. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about now, the reversal. And it says, in the beginning of mythology, the elements of fire, earth, air, and water were first typified before there was any formation of the world. Later they became the establishers of time and order. All creations were first stellar, then lunar, and last solar, and as such are found everywhere in ancient tradition. There were three primary heavens in the Babylonian astronomy: the heaven of fire, the ether, and the planetary heaven. These answer to the star stations, the lunar station, and the solar station. Okay, and it says, as this was the old Typhon who became outcast in a later theology, and that we're talking about the mother and the son who was later pushed back. It says, but as Kepha, she was made sevenfold watcher, whose 7 eyes or stars went to and fro through all the earth, as she was goddess of time, and they called her child Sep Cronus, a second condition of time. As Sut, he was the first announcer of time, But as 6Apr2001, he became a repeater of time in dual aspect called the Sun and Sirius, or Saturn. Okay? And all this will become a little more clear as I get more into the lecture as to why I'm focusing on this. Okay? Then we go on to say that, 16. From the hidden sun of the solar regime, through the knowledge of the evolutionists came the cycles of time. The Egyptian god Tuat, the moon god, later the planet Mercury, and Seb, the star god, later the planet Jupiter, were said to be born as timekeepers or watchers in the heaven. There were types of gods and angels, but when history began, these types were transformed into demons. Okay? So as things started turning around, we're starting to see the appearance of these demons, you know, or the devil, see. So what I want to point out here is that now we're in the time, you know, of Christianity. We're talking Jesus, which I've identified as none other than Zeus. I mean, if you write down the words Jesus and Zeus, you'll see the similarity. Okay, and what is happening is that we have been programmed to turn toward Jesus or Zeus and turn against Satan, who actually represents Saturn. Okay, which was actually the first son of the Great Mother. Okay, Saturn is actually the father energy of the earth. See, it's the creator of the earth. So we look at Saturn as the father of the earth. Okay, so if we're being the children of the earth and they're turning us against Satan, who is really Saturn, then you can understand what type of illusionary ploy is going on here, and turning us toward Jesus or Zeus, which is the god, you know, which is their god, you know, which is their god, the god of material abundance, you see. And what it is that we're being programmed to fight against anything that's coming up to destroy this civilization, okay, which is an evil, wicked civilization. There's no fixing this. There's no patching. You know, this has to go. The earth is in what we call a regeneration phase, a transformation time, when the old must die out so that the new may be reborn at a higher level. So we should be cheering on the apocalypse, okay? We're the ones that should be bringing that on, okay? Now, the Saturn as creator of the earth. I want to establish that by reading a little bit so that most of this stuff, I don't have time. I have tons of books here, and most of this stuff I have gotten out of books. Some of it I'm going to read, but I have the books so that you can reference in case. I mean, it's not something just coming out of my head, and I'm trying to, so I'm going to give a little bit of an establishment of Saturn as the creator of the earth, okay, being the father energy of the earth. Let me see, let me find this material, page 1, here it is. Certain fundamentalists, based on specific proposals offered by others, are here accepted, let me skip down and then, let's see. Yeah, but also tested against the record. First among these proposals is one which was originally offered by Emmanuel Velaski in 1971 concerning the possibility that Earth had at one time been a satellite of the planet Saturn. Actually, a similar, if more bizarre, idea that proposes the Earth to be an offspring of Saturn and was aired as long ago as 1884 and as part of a theory purporting to prove that land masses on Earth have rifted and moved northward. So I just wanted to give, it says independent of the Velaski, but basing their work on his, let me skip around, also came to the conclusion that Earth must have once been a satellite of Saturn, a topic of which Thiesman has more recently returned, combining Velaski's theory with that of David Talbot and others. you know, they're all coming into this agreement that Earth was either a satellite or offspring of Saturn. Just wanted to establish that. Then we go on, then as the father of the Earth, Saturn being the father energy of the Earth, we were bestowed with certain gifts. Our ancestors had certain gifts at that time. You know, when our ancestors looked up in the sky, they saw Saturn up there as the sun, you see. It was that close. It was at a close proximity to the Earth. And at that time, Saturn being the father energy of the Earth was bestowing our ancestors with many gifts, many powers that were easily accessible. The telepathy, you know, the clairvoyance, the appearing and disappearing. We had all these powers, you know, based on direct influence from the father energy or the Saturn energy. So, and this is what our ancestors operated with, and our ancestors ruled this earth for thousands, maybe millions of years, okay, with those powers that was bestowed on them from the power of Saturn, or the father energy of the earth. And so there's, it says here, find this page here. It says that it has been clearly established that early religion was astral in nature, and that aside from worshiping the God of the Old Testament, or the one grand God, they also worship the planetary gods. That being the case, the three supreme astral deities obviously should have been the sun, the moon, and Venus. They weren't. The two chief gods in all ancient religious systems were Jupiter and Saturn, Zeus and Kronos. That doesn't make sense. Most people would have terrible, difficult time just finding Jupiter and Saturn in today's sky, and they certainly would not rate worship. Could there have been some reason for Saturn worship in the very recent past? Great authors generally spoke of the world as a golden age, the so-called golden age of Saturn. During that time, the earth gave forth all good things of its own accord. Mankind was content and found created without labor, picked the fruits of the trees in the mountains, the strawberries, and it was just spring, eternal, gentle breezes caressed the flowers. It was after Saturn, and then, it was just beautiful. It was wonderful. They called it the golden reign of Saturn. And then after Saturn fell, Saturn fell. And like I said, some people say it was the battle with Osiris or Horus, for whatever reason, Saturn fell. But he was prophesied to return. Saturn also means crystallization, okay? So here we're getting the Christ story here. We're getting the Christ story. This is where they got the Jesus story from, the return, okay? But when he fell, that's when they said the Jupiter energy came in to reign, and that's when we started going into the 4 seasons, because before that, with the Saturn reigns, there was just a spring-like temperature at all times, so things started to change when we moved, and they called that the Silver Age. After we moved out of the Saturn reign, they called that the Silver Age. So we were going down a notch. So telepathy, there's some information here. It's called One Language, Few Words. This I got off the internet, or my daughter-in-law got off the internet, and it says, and they're talking about the Tower of Babel. It says, therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from there did the Lord scatter them abroad all over the face of the earth, and of one language and of one speech. But what we're saying here is that in this information is saying that it wasn't about the language that happened at the Tower of Babel. What is being described is not a transition from one language, such as ours, to many languages. What is being described is a total change in the manner in which human communicated going from some fairly recent point to the present. In very ancient literature, from the older sections of the scriptures and on back, we search in vain for any sort of reference to anything which we would call decision making. At every turn in which you or I would have to stop and think about how to proceed, the men and women of the ancient are guided by the voices of the god and goddesses. Okay? The entire manner in which the human brain and mind work today is fundamentally different from the way in which they worked just a few thousand years ago, and the evidence appears to entirely support him. It is in fact describing the physical equivalent of cosmic catastrophe, the manner in which humans communicate could not possibly evolve through such an event. So what they're saying is that there was a catastrophe that changed the way in which we communicated. When we communicated telepathically, when we had that type of, there had been a change, a catastrophic change from the cosmos that caused things to deteriorate from that perspective. And one of the catastrophe we're talking about is the fall of Saturn, when it moved from the close proximity to the Earth, see? And it as a distant star right now. That's when, because when Saturn was at a close proximity, that's when we were received of these powers. But he is prophesied to return, and I have heard, that Saturn at this time is more close to the Earth than it's been since those ancient times, see? So that is the prophecy of the return. But what I really want to point out here is that the reason I'm so focused on Saturn and the Great Mother, and I read to you how black she was, how intensely black she was, okay? The blackness is equatable to the blackness of the universe, as I mentioned. Now, this is the same substance that the melanin is made of, okay? Yes. This is the same substance as the melanin. And I'm focusing on Saturn being the son of the Great Mother, who was intensely black because of this melanin factor, which, if the Earth is the daughter of Saturn, which makes us the children of Saturn, or the grandchildren of Nut, the Great Mother, okay? So now we have to connect that with the melanin and understand that, we are part of this royal family, that was established, in the very earliest of antiquity. We're talking about the mother, we're talking about the son, and then we get to the father, and then the daughter, which is Earth, okay? The number 4 is the number for balance. So, what is happening at this time, the Earth is going through a transformation. In other words, she's trying to rise to her sacredness. She's trying to balance the universe. The number 4 is the number of balance. She's trying to complete the royal family. We have the queen, which is the Great Mother, Nut. We have the prince, which is the sun, the planetary Saturn. We have, we got the mother, the father, the queen, the king, the prince, and now we're trying to balance the universe with the daughter. She must become sacred in order to do that, which means we have to reverse our energy rotation from the physical to the spiritual rotation. That's what we're going to have to do. Now, I want to say something to my young students before I move on to this next part here, talking about the melanin factor, because this is the question I get from most of my young folks when it comes to when I start getting into this black-white issue, okay? A lot of them they're down with my message, but they're like, I just don't believe in this hate, I just don't believe in this hate. And I'm like, I'm not preaching a message of hate, okay? What I am preaching is a message of righteous indignation. Okay? We definitely have a right to be indignant about our oppression. Okay? We definitely have a right for that. And the thing is that we're the only ones that's going to be able to turn this around. Okay? And we're going to have to start thinking on terms of energy. See? That's when we're getting into the spiritual realm. We got to have to think in symbolic terms. Okay? So, when you get righteously indignant, what you are doing is you're contributing to that energy pot. That energy pot that is going to bubble over and bring about this apocalypse, you see. I'm not trying to tell you to hate anyone, but I'm trying to tell you to hate the condition, you know, that we are in. And you don't have to go out trying to, you know, kill up anybody or shoot up anybody. All you have to do is send out the appropriate energy, you know, that's going to bring about the transformation, you see. That's going to turn things around, because we're going to have to reverse things again. We're going to have to reverse. As a matter of fact, things is already starting to reverse. So I just wanted to make that clear, you know, to my younger folks, because they usually are the ones to ask me about that. It's not hate, but I am identifying the truth, you know, because the truth has been hidden for so long, and there has been a great deception going on. And the only way to undo that deception is to, you know, to put the truth out there, okay? And if the truth hurt, you know, I'm sorry. Yeah, so be it. So I'm going to start off with, okay, I thought I had got hurt. Okay, this book. I need to, okay, I had my book, one of my books, I guess I put it in here. I'm looking for my ISIS paper. Thought I had the book. Let's see, what did I do with it? Okay. Just a second here. Here it is. The ISIS paper. Of course, you guys heard of Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, right? Okay, now, I want to read this. And it's page 2. Okay? It says, Neely Fuller, in his 1969 copyrighted The United Independence Compensatory Code System Concept, a textbook workbook for thought, speech, and action for victims of racism, white supremacy. Recognize the need for a functional statement on racism, one that could be utilized daily by those earnestly seeking to bring about social change. Fuller observed that contrary to most present thinking, there is only one functioning racism in the known world, white supremacy. Okay? He challenges his readers to identify and then to demonstrate the superiority or functional supremacy of any of the world's non-white people over anyone, concluding that since there is no operational supremacy of any colored people, Fuller reveals that the only valid operational definition of racism is white supremacy. Okay? Want to establish that first. Fuller explains that racism is not merely a pattern of individual and/or institutional practice. It is a universally operating system of white supremacy and domination in which the majority of the world's white people participate. He discounts the validity of theories that recognize the evolution of economic system as the origin of the state of affairs. Instead, he reveals the inadequate analysis of such theories by suggesting that various economic systems such as capitalism, communism, and socialism have been devised, used, and refined in the effort to achieve the primary goal of white domination. In other words, the goal of the white supremacy system is none other than the establishment, the maintenance, expansion, and refinement of world domination by members of a group that classifies itself as the white race. Okay? Let's get that straight first off the bat. Racism is only applied to white supremacy. Okay? And also, it says, impressed that the concept of a system of white domination over the world's non-white people could explain the seeming predicament and dilemma of non-white social reality, I intend to focus, as a psychiatrist, we're talking Dr. Creston here, on what possible motivational force operative at both the individual and group levels could account for the evolution of these patterns of social behavioral practice that apparently function in all areas of human activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. While Fuller clearly suggests that this system consists of patterns of thought, speech, and action practiced to various degrees by the majority of the world's white people, the only comment on etiology, I know I messed that up, etiology, he makes is that most white people hate black people. Okay? The reason that most white people hate black people is because whites are not black people. If you know this about white people, you need know little else. If you do not know this about white people, virtually all else that you know about them will only confuse you. Okay? To take Fuller's account a step further, it would be noted that in the majority of instances, any neurotic drive for superiority usually is founded upon a deep and pervading sense of inadequacy and inferiority. It is not true that white people represent in numerical terms a very small minority of the world's people, and more profoundly is not white itself the very absence of the ability to produce color? I reason then that the quality of whiteness is indeed a genetic inadequacy or a relative genetic deficiency state based upon the genetic inability to produce the skin pigments of melanin, which is responsible for all skin color. The vast majority of the world's people are not so afflicted, which suggests that color is normal for human beings and color absence is abnormal. Additionally, this state of color absence acts always as a genetic recessive to the dominant genetic factor of color production. Color always annihilates the non-color, white. Black people possess the greatest color potential, with brown, red, and yellow peoples possessing lesser qualities respectively. Okay? She goes on, so I just want to point out that, it's not a question, it's not a debate, of whether or not we want to be racist, This is a devised system. This is something that has been designed to continue to keep us oppressed because we are the people with the power. We are the spiritual people. They are the material people. Okay? Now, they had to rape Mother Earth of her materials because they did not possess it with them themselves, which we do. Okay? And so rather than us being vanguards, which we were supposed to be, we join in. I want some too. I want some too. It's not necessary for us to do that because we have the power, because we have the melanin, which gives us the fluidity with the universe. We're talking energies here. And if we're talking the great mother, Newt, who is the blackness of the universe because of the melanin factor, this is what gives us our fluidity with the universe, our power out in the universe. Okay? And so we have to recognize, first off, that we do have that power. We do have that fluidity. And we don't need the materials in order to, gain anything. We create our own reality because we are the gods. Because if you remember before, I was telling you about two opposites coming together to make a whole. That's creation, okay? And we are physical beings with the spiritual access, to this energy in the universe. And when we bring those two opposites, the spirit is the opposite of the physical, that's creating a whole, okay? So that's what makes us our God. That's what God means, whole, fullness, holistic, And so that's what gives us the power to create whatever reality we care to create, But we have to know this. We have to understand this because we are moving into a new age, which is the Aquarius age, okay? And the key word for Aquarius is I know, okay? It's not enough to believe anymore. That was the Piscean age that we're moving out of, I believe. Now we're moving into the Aquarian age, which is I know. This is our activator. This is our power, okay? Because we are actually the queens, the kings, we are actually a member of the royal family, the royal universal family, okay? But we haven't known that and we haven't acted up under that. We have the capability, of producing power, of producing energy, you see. And so that we can create our own reality. But, it's like the spiritual force is like that's our force to deal with. But we have to step up to that force as kings and queens, okay? Because it's not going to take orders unless you step up to it as a king or a queen and give your command. You step up there tentatively, unsure, it won't happen. Then you're wondering, what's wrong, But have you ever known a king or a queen to give a command and it not be, it did not happen, it did not move forth in that command? But the Spirit is going to test you on that. And you go up there all tentative, can you please, will you, I need for you, Spirit going to say, hey, she don't know who she is. I don't have to act under that, You have to come up and you have to know who you are. Know who you are and know what what your power is, you see. This is what we have to reclaim. And this is what is happening as we start reversing that rotation that I was talking about. Now, I want to read you some more from the ISIS paper about the cross, okay? 62. Page 62 for whoever. Okay. The basic discussion of white genetic survival through the possession and control of the black man's genital apparatus is carried forth unconsciously in the precepts and practices of the global white supremacy system's primary religion, Christianity. These fundamental concepts are manifested in Christianity's central pattern of symbols. In fact, it is in religious activity that the highest level of symbolic discussion emerges. Whereas the testicles are those aspects of the male autonomy that contains the dominant genetic material, the penis is the aspect that transports the genetic material which initiates the production of life and skin color. And so, and they got a little symbol here. They got the symbol showing how they come to the cross on that. You see how that symbolizes the cross for them. If you take the testicles with the penis and you can draw a little line, you'll come up with the cross, okay? But, and to carry that further, we carry it to Jesus, page 68 and 69. She goes in to say, to the extent that it can be accepted. No, I'm going to move down here. It says, the most likely essence of the story of Jesus, who only later was referred to as Christ, was that he was a poor black man, a carpenter, a member of the non-white oppressed population whose ideas, as expressed in the Beatitudes, threatened the power, control, and authority of the conquering Romans. Okay? If Jesus and the other blacks got out of control, the Romans, the whites, could be annihilated genetically. Of course, this is now under the white supremacy domination. Jesus, the non-white, was turned over to the white oppressors, who then used some of the fellow victimized, self-hating non-whites who wished to ingratiate themselves to the white oppressors to kill him. Jesus, the black man, was then hung on a cross, okay? A particular invention of the Roman white psychic. In other words, the white brain computer that feared annihilation by the black male genitals unconsciously invented an instrument or weapon of black male destruction. I'm going on this over here to say, thus, Christian white supremacy theology can be translated: Jesus, a black man, shed his black genetic material in crucifixion, which in reality was a castration and a killing, so that the white genetic recessive population, in fear of its genetic annihilation, I can't get that word, could be saved, genetically survive. Thus, Jesus is called the Savior by the whites. It is little wonder that the holy day celebrated for the death of Jesus is referred to as Good Friday. And a television series that represented a socially and politically castrated black man similarly was referred to as Good Times. The historically good nigga has been the dead nigga. Okay? Break through some misconceptions here, you know, about what's really going on and what has really been designed here for our captivity and our oppression. And the reason, you know, is because of our power. You know, because the only way, you know, to keep their supremacy was to, confuse us, to put forth this illusion so that we would not access that power, you know, and, become the true rulers that we are, you see. So then I'll go on to, so what we're talking about is, as I already mentioned, is this Zeus or Jesus versus Saturn or Satan. That's where the reversal came in at. Turn us against our power, you know, in favor of their power, you know. We have the power, but we don't have the knowledge. They have the knowledge, but don't have the power, you see. So what happens is that we've been turned against those things that our ancestors did, our ancient ancestors did, to empower themselves. You know, we've been told it's witchcraft, it's voodoo, it's evil, you know, don't you do it. But don't you know they're doing it left and right? You know, but they cannot access it without our participation because we have the melanin. And some of you that were in my class before, you know, I showed a tape on the Super Bowl that they had here in Atlanta, which was nothing but a huge ritual, okay? Because remember me reading about the great mother Nut, who was the Typhon energy, the Titans, you know, versus the realm, okay? So, and Atlanta being very, the city of metamorphosis, you know, going into this new millennium, or so-called, they had to make sure, see, white folks understand that it's what's being symbolized. When you're talking symbolic, you're talking spiritual, okay? So they understand that. So they did not want it to be symbolized, that the power was going to go back into the black hands or the Titans' hands. So at halftime, they did this huge ritual, they had the Great Mother rising up out of the water. They had all the symbols, that we should be using, And then on the Mandela, which is the seat of the universe, the power seat of the universe, they had Toni Braxton come up, and she had on this all white, straight hair. All the people surrounding her had on black to absorb the energy, okay? If you go outside in the sun with a black shirt on, you're going to absorb that heat, that energy, okay? The white is going to repel it, okay? They understand this. So, and not only that, they had, Ram truck commercials. They had, all kind of Ram symbolism instructing the energies on who to empower, because they did not want the Titans, the Typhons, they did not want it symbolized that that's where the power was going. And I was interested in seeing what was going to happen this Super Bowl, but they didn't do anything. It was in, where was it, in Miami, Tampa, Florida somewhere. And I watched to see if they were going to do a ritual, but they did not. I don't think they felt the need, because Florida is rather cocky, They figure, they're untouchable. They don't have to do a ritual, which was a mistake, because I figure what happened is that the spirits actually fooled them, because it let them pull off this ritual here in Atlanta, but this year was the real significance of what's happening at this time, this transformation stage we're in, because what did we have? We had the ravens versus the giants. Come on, it don't take much of a jump to understand what that's all about, you see. And I did have some material. I got some material that a guy that heard me on the radio sent to me regarding the raven, after I had told him about the Atlanta Super Bowl. He started thinking about the raven, and then he started looking up, what it meant, the raven meant, what the symbol of the raven meant. And I'll read you a little bit. The raven as a bird of death or the underworld. That's our world, you guys, okay? We want everything just the opposite of what it's been, okay? So it's talking about the raven, the Celtic legend as the bird of the death or the underworld, was clearly recognized by the bearing of ravens with wings outspread at the bottom of pits. These ritual pits or shafts symbolize the connection between this world and the underworld, and the raven was a messenger between the two. The raven symbolizes by being able to travel from this world to the next. The raven also symbolizes the power of healing. But the type of healing that comes about through a confrontation with the unconscious, with the hidden, with the shadow, and with the darker, potentially destructive aspects of the psychic, okay? It's all about transformation. So it's actually about what was symbolized during that Super Bowl, and the Ravens did win, see? So they were able to pull off the Rams beating up on the Titans, but when it came to the bigger metaphysic, symbolism, the Ravens did win that one, see? And that's the spiritual that we're going into and that we're about to win also. We are in the Aries energy, which is about new beginnings, and it's about, us being in, Aries represents the spiritual warrior, okay? So make no mistake about it, we're in the spiritual warfare at this time, you see? And that's what that Super Bowl symbolized for us, that there is a change coming, a major change coming, that transformation is very active. Then the reason why that it is very active at this time is because there has been a reversal. And the, can you open up this chart for me? On August the 11th, 1999, there was there was this fixed cross. Now, of course, you guys know I'm an astrologer, okay? So that's why we always go to the astrology. Okay. You know, this is an astrology chart. This is actually the Earth chart, okay? And as you can see, the date, August 11th, 1999, and I got it based on Washington, D.C., okay? Now, if you'll look here, these are the planets on the outer edge. These are the signs. The planets are the influence, the energy influence. What's influencing us at the time? The science is telling us the method or how it's influencing in us. You know, it's like energy rays coming through certain constellations, you know, and that's what gives us the method, or the signs tell us the method. And then we have what you call the houses. These little pie slices are the houses. In other words, it's telling you where that energy is showing up in your life, okay? Now, if you'll look here, it's all about how energies interact based on the elements and based on what we call the modes. The modes are, we say, we have a mutable, we have the fixed, and we have the cardinal, okay? You see, there's this cross. That's a horizontal line. It's like we're looking at the earth here. And this horizontal line represents the horizon line, see? And this vertical line divides the hemispheres, okay? So, and so those modes that I'm talking about, that's the level that we're looking at. We're looking at the crosses when we're looking at the modes, you see. You have, so when I talk, the mutable cross is what the mass rotation is on. It's the adaptive energy. You know, it adjusts or adapts to the whole. The fixed is where you get your reversal at, where you get your purging and your suffering, because it's actually the reversal or the power of the energy. And then the cardinal is the initiator or the leader, you see. And this is what we have to ascend to in order to become the royal family that we are. We have to start demonstrating this cardinal energy, you know, which is actually the royal energy, okay? But the power is demonstrated in the fixed signs, the fixed cross. And the signs that represents the fixed cross is the Scorpio, which is opposite Taurus, okay? And Leo, which is opposite Aquarius, okay? Now, anytime you have energies in a 90-degree angle, in other words, they're in the same modes, then you're going to get what we call friction. You see, friction, and also opposition. So on this chart, we're seeing energy, these planets are lined up to bring about energy that represents nothing but oppositions and friction, okay? So this is why it's called the fixed cross, the cross of purging and suffering. This is actually what was being signaled by this configuration of planets on that date was the reversal of the energy rotation from the physical to the spiritual, okay? So now everything is going to take more of a spiritual connotation, okay? That's going to become the dominant energy now. We're going to have to completely reverse from everything that we have been programmed, you know, to do its opposite, you see. That's what was signaled by this fixed cross of 1999. There's a piece in the Bible. Tell you something about the Bible. It's not so much the Bible, you know, it's the book of the stars, actually. If you start reading the Bible in its symbolic understanding, you'll see it's nothing but astrology. Nothing but astrology. But that's when you're looking at it in its fullness, and you're not looking at it literally. This is where we're going to have to move from, people, the literal understanding. This is how we've been programmed to think on a literal level, you see. We have to pull in the fullness, the spiritual with the physical, so we get a holistic view of what is really happening here. And when you start looking at this from that spiritual perspective, combined with the physical perspective, then you have a whole picture which is totally different from what you will see just from a literal perspective or the physical perspective. The part in here that describes this, and I'll show you, it says, they're talking about this chair. This is Ezekiel. It says they're talking about a cherubim, and it says their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went where they went, and they went everyone straight forth. And as for the likeness of their faces, the four had the face of a man, the Aquarius, okay, and the face of a lion, the Leo, which is the opposite sign of Aquarius, okay, and on the right side, and then the four had the face of an ox, which is the bull, okay, Taurus. And on the left side, and then the four had the face of an eagle, which is Scorpio, okay? So that's even showing you that it was even mentioned in the Bible, this configuration of August 11th, 1999, because this is what signaled the transformation or the reversal of that energy rotation from the physical to the spiritual rotation, which is our forte, okay? We are the spiritual people. We are opposite of the material people, okay? So now everything is going to take a spiritual significance to it. You are going to start opening up to your gifts now, okay? Just like our ancestors had them, we have them. We just haven't been utilizing them because we haven't known about that. But that's what this signal, now is the time for us to step up, because it's not even a personal thing. It's a universal thing. Like I said, Mother Earth is Daughter Earth for the universe. And that is what the universe is needing to balance itself. We've already heard about the mother, the father, the son. Now we need the daughter for balance. And as each one of us makes our transformation on an individual level, we're contributing to the overall level for the daughter to take her place among the universal scheme of things, you see. So this is what was signaled by that configuration in the sky, in the cosmos, in the universe, you know, on that date, okay? The cosmos tells the whole story. That's the clock we should be looking at, you see. That's the calendar we should be looking at. Like, it's spring. We're in Aries. Spring. New beginnings. You know, it's the new year. Okay? Not January the 1st. This is the new year energy. See? Everything has been veiled so we don't discover our powers, you see, and step up to who we are as the royal family. Let's see. I have... something I want to read here. Let's see. Chart 2 and 3. Okay. It says, once you adjust your perspective to a universal view, you become a part of the fulfillment of the whole, which is God in uniqueness of you. With the power from within to create all that promotes the universal principles of righteousness. Each sign of the zodiac represents a principle of righteousness. And you have all the signs in you. Those are energies within you, okay? What you're talking about when you say, I'm a Virgo, I'm a Capricorn, you're talking about your sun sign, okay? Your sun sign. That's your focus in life. What did I come into this life to focus on? We all, when we were at a higher consciousness, we chose this life. We decided, I can accomplish this mission. You know, I can accomplish this person. So we designed our own chart. In other words, when the energies were ripe for you to walk the path of the mission you chose, that's when you came into this life to demonstrate that path, you see. So what it is that, you know, and so each sign of the zodiac will, it plays a part. It's an energy makeup of you, okay? The sun represents your focus. Then we look at the your moon, how am I emotionally? You know, you have a moon sign, how do I feel about things? You have a rising sign, what are my actions? What do I do? You know, you have a Mercury sign, how do I think? Where was Mercury sitting? What constellation? What energy was Mercury sending out? That tells you how you think. You have your Venus, how do I love? You have your Mars, how do I fight? What is my aggression? You know, and that's what we're in right now. We're in the Aries energy, which is ruled by the planet Mars, and that's why you're seeing the cop killings, the shootings, you know, anything that deals with the fire, because we're also talking elements now. And Aries is a fire sign, which means you're going to see fire, the fire energy take a prominence right now. So anything associated with fire is applied to that Aries energy we're in right now, the warrior energy, or the, you know, the energy of new beginnings. And each sign of the zodiac is represented on this chart. And this chart is representative of each individual, okay? Now, it's like each energy is going to rule one of these sections, you see. And where it shows up for you is going to be totally unique and different as to how it shows up for anyone else. But what you're used to dealing with is your sun sign. That's only where your sun is demonstrating its energy. But we have, for the Aries, we'll start with Aries. That's the first sign. It indicates the spiritual warrior. In other words, we're ready to stand up and fight, you know, for what is right, you know, for righteousness. We go to Taurus, the second sign of the zodiac. We're talking values, you see. And each sign has a planet that represents it. Each sign, and they also have a house that represents it. So when we look at the first house, that's normally where Aries would be, and the energy of Mars, what we're looking at is our personal actions. Aries represents the spiritual warrior. You know, the Taurus represents what you value in life, you see, our values. Gemini is going to represent understanding. These are all the principles of righteousness that I'm talking about, that you have to demonstrate in order to be whole and full. The Cancer represents your families, your heritage, your nurturing energy. You know, your Leo represents your creativity, your children, your pleasures. This is the ruling energy. This is the identifier. You know, they talk about Leo as being the sign of the ego. This is the identifier of us as the royal rulers, the children of the universal forces, you see, the royal rulers, because Leo represents children, it represents creativity, it represents the rulers, you see. You put all those together to understand that. The Virgo energy is the healer, you know, the purger, the purifier. Let's cleanse. Then the Libra is the partnership in marriage, you know, or justice, balance, equality. Scorpio represents bonding. Sagittarius, spiritual wisdom. Capricorn, sacrifice, humbleness. You know, Aquarius is the humanitarian. And Pisces is the compassionate one, okay? Now, if you leave one of these principles out, you're aberrant. You're an aberrant entity. You're not whole, you're not full, and you're not sacred. And the only way to access the spiritual is to be full and whole and sacred. And that's why you can understand why the earth is going through this tear down, this degradation, because now it's going against the grain of the dominant force of the universe. The universe is about sacredness, it's about righteousness, it's about being whole and full and using all of these. You know, the powers that be, they are not practicing the Libra, you know, justice. They're not practicing values. They're not practicing humbleness. And if you're leaving out one, just one, you're not whole. You're not full. You don't make the cut. You don't ascend to the higher level, you see. So this is what we have to do. We have to reverse from the physical and start dealing in these spiritual principles in order to become full and whole and sacred, in order to, you know, to contribute to Mother Earth taking her place among the universal, the royal family, you see. So once we arm ourselves with the tools necessary to tune into your spiritual self or your higher self, who will define these principles for you in your own way personally, You have to trust in the Spirit, for it will take you where you need to go. All you need to do is, at this time, is to get with the spiritual flow. Learn how to stop resisting your powers. You do have them, just as our ancestors did. The more physical we became, the more we lost these wonderful gifts. Don't forget that everything works on the principle of duality, from opposite perspectives, as above, so below, subjective as well as objective. Anything that's a physical existence has a spiritual one also, and we need to be able to see things in both light for the full meaning. I just want to make sure that you understand that we have to bring all those energies out of us, okay? We have to, you got all these energies showing up somewhere within you, okay? And you can access any of those energies by tapping into the area, which is identified, as you get your chart done, you can identify where those energies show up and how they show up for you. And then you'll understand how to use those energies and those powers, for your empowerment. What I'm trying to give you is a message of empowerment here, okay? Everyone is crying about money right now, Don't take it personally. It's an overall thing, because the more spiritual you become, the less material you're going to be, because they are opposites. One has to give way to the other. They cannot occupy the same space at the same time. It's up to you as to where you want to put that energy, you see. But if you cast it toward the physical side, you're putting it on a sinking ship, because that ship is definitely going down. I asked people, I said, why do you think at that Olympic ceremony, at that bombing, only one black woman got killed? Why do you think? Because now we have to start looking at things from a universal perspective, a spiritual perspective, and look at it from that perspective, and tell me why you think only one black woman would have been killed during that Olympic bombing. It was a warning. This is not your party. Get out of Dodge. This ship is going down. And if you hung up in it, you're going to go down with it. Okay? And that's the same thing overall. If we want to cast our chips toward the material, that material world is coming down. You're seeing the stock markets. You're seeing, all this stuff. And that's our energy. When I talked about that pot of righteous indignation, every time one of us gets indignant about something, about our oppression, we're causing these weather phenomena, because the earth is really our mother, you see. So that's our energy contributing to, what is happening, see? So that is when we're seeing the weather, when we're seeing, you hear something horrendous happening in Texas, next thing you know, there's a tornado going there, hitting there. Why do you think, that is happening? It's because enough of us has gotten indignant about it to where the energies have taken our command, to do something about the situation. But it's a subconscious thing, you guys. The subconscious thing is something that has to be ingrained. It's something that you have to feel, And so, we have to understand that we are a part of that royal family that is directing whatever happens energy-wise or spiritually-wise, not only for ourselves, not only on this earth, but a universal thing. This is a whole new thing that is going on right now in the universe, by what we are demonstrating at this present time. We are definitely moving into a new age. We're moving into a new age where that's the reason why this reversal had to occur, because the Aquarian age that we're moving into is the energy of evolution, okay? And so it is time for us to evolve. It is time for us, to step up and claim our rulership, okay? We have to do that. No one can do it but us, because we have the melanin.
That's right.
You see? And the only way that these powers can be used by other people is through our ignorance as we participate, Come on, Tony Braxton, perform at our Super Bowl ritual, In other words, activate these powers for us, But don't do it for yourself. You know, that's bad, okay? They are taking over our stuff. You know, we have to reclaim it. You know, that's what time it is. That's what this here is signaling, you know. So, let me see. Where am I at right here? The Melatonin Miracle. Okay, this book here. I got this. I used to work for a mental health counseling corporation. And I got this book. It's called The Melatonin Miracle. Okay? And this is, it says Walter, I can't, it's Pierpaoli, MD, PhD, and William, Regelson, MD, with Carol Coleman, okay? And let me read you something. Now this is their book here. Let me read you something. 24, 25. Okay. It says, the pineal gland is a part of the body that until recent years had been little studied but long revered. For example, the Hindu attached mystical importance to the pineal, referring to it as the body's third eye. Of course, we know that's the first eye, okay? And in a sense, that's what it is. The pineal gland, which contains pigment cells similar to those found in our eyes, is light sensitive and reacts to periods of light and dark transmitted to it through our eyes. The pineal controls the body's biological clock, the internal mechanism that tells us when it's time to sleep and when it's time to wake up. Sometimes it says, but the pineal regulates more than our sleep pattern. It regulates the rhythm of life itself. The pineal gland manufactures and operates through a hormone called melatonin. They're saying melatonin. I don't know if that's, yeah. Melatonin is instrumental in establishing our daily rhythms from infancy on. Expectant mothers pass melatonin to their developing babies through the placenta. Although infants don't manufacture their own supply of melanin until their third or fourth day of life, melatonin is present in breast milk. Melatonin levels peak during childhood. During adolescence, melatonin levels drop, triggering a rise in other hormones, which in turn signals to the body that it is time to enter puberty. As we age, our melatonin levels continue to decrease, and with the steepest decline occurring from about age 50 on. By age 60, our pineal glands are producing half the amount of melatonin they did when we were 20. Not so coincidental, a melatonin level drops, we begin to exhibit serious signs of aging. For reasons that we will explain later, we don't even want. When the aging clocks begin to show signs of aging itself, it signals to other parts of the body that it's time for them to grow old. You know, I just want you to understand what the importance of what they know about this melatonin. And from the table of contents, they're talking about this melatonin is the nature's age reversing hormone. They call it the melatonin miracles. It's finding the aging clock, the pineal gland, the third eye, growing young, nature's disease-fighting hormone, the immune system, nature's own bodyguard, a powerful protector and treatment against cancer, melatonin for a strong heart. All of this, I'm just telling you that this is a miracle drug for them. The first Pierpaoli. Okay? And so they know the wonders of this. And don't think they're just getting this. Where do you think they're getting this from? You know? You see the melatonin pills, you see don't be shocked at where you think they're getting this from, okay? And they know what it does for them. So, you know, we don't know what it does for us. See, so, okay, now I want to talk about the, we just talked about the, I want to show this one here. What did he do with this one? This one here. Oh, you had it in the library? Yeah, yeah. It's amazing. All the stuff that, you know. Yeah, you can take it, push it back. Okay. Now, the succession of spiritual energy into physical manifestation. Okay? And what are we looking at? We're looking at the royal family. This is who we are. We are the royal family. And you have your queen, which I've identified as Nut, the great mother, the blackness of the universe. Okay? And what happened is, and under that falls the element of water. And it represents the soul, darkness, those things that are hidden. Okay? And the signs that pertain to it is Cancer, which is the cardinal sign. I have the cardinal sign on the top of this little table because the cardinal sign is the one that's going to demonstrate the royal energy. Okay? And this is the reason why I put Cancer up here, which Cancer is ruled by the moon, and it is talking about the emotional. But when we put all the water signs together is when we get the queen, when we get the mother. You understand? When we put all the water signs together, which will be Scorpio, which is ruled by the planet Pluto. Pluto is our power point. That's the regenerator, the transformer, you see. And then we have, that's why Scorpio is always about intensity, you see, because it has to tear down in order to rebuild. And then we have Pisces, which is ruled by Neptune, okay? And those three signs represent that water element. And also the feminine emotions. It's the negative energy. Negative is not bad, you guys. It's just the feminine, okay? And which equates to the black mothers, okay? And then the next in line is the prince, not the king, but the prince. Mother comes first, and then she birthed forth her son, which is the prince. I have Horus down here only because he has been identified as a son, you know, rather than Saturn, because when it was in the Saturn configuration, that's when he had grown into the father, okay? So Horus, and as you can see, the sun is actually the S-U-N, sun, okay? And that's the fire element, which represents divinity, light, the illumined. And those signs are Aries, which is ruled by the planet Mars, you know. And Aries, of course, is the cardinal. And then Leo, which is the fixed sign here. The sun is the ruler of that energy. And Sagittarius, which is the mutable energy, okay? And that's ruled by Jupiter. And then we're looking at the masculine, the ego, and the positive, okay? And we're looking at black suns. Now, my son drew this for me, okay? And I asked him, I said, well, why is it that suns is capitalized here? You know, why all of a sudden everybody else, you know? I said, he said, I didn't even really think about it when I did it, but it must have been a subconscious thing, but, you know, I guess all the black suns can applaud that anyway. So, and then, okay, so the Nut or the queen birthed forth the son or the prince, okay, and who grew into the father or the king, okay, which is, I have Set Osiris, okay, and the planets. And that's the earth element. And that's crystallization. Also, it represents karma or the alchemy process, because Saturn, this is how they was able to give Saturn this bad name, this Satan image, is because Saturn is the limitator, the restrictor, the one that's going to challenge you, you know, because the earth is under a ray called harmony through conflict. In other words, we bring out the best from the conflict, you know, that we undergo. And that's what Saturn brings to us. It brings a test to our character, which brings out the best of who we are, okay? And so crystallization, karma, alchemy, all that would represent under the father energy, the disciplinarian, okay? And then the Capricorn energy, ruled by Saturn, is the cardinal sign for that. Taurus, ruled by Venus. Virgo, ruled by Mercury. These are the earth signs. Sensitivity and polarity. Polarity of the black fathers. Okay? And then it was the Saturn, which I established earlier, was the creator of the earth, or the father energy of the earth. It brought forth the daughter, which is the earth, okay, which is the princess of that royal family. The stars, and that's the air element, okay, and that's the spirit, enlightened, inspired. Libra, which is ruled by Venus, which is the cardinal sign of the air element. And we have Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, Gemini, ruled by Mercury, the other two air signs. And that represents duality and the knowing. And it represents balance, for the black daughters. Because that's what the earth is going to do. It's going to balance the universe. See? It's going to balance the universe. And then what happens? That daughter, or that princess, what? Becomes the queen. There you go. And that's completion. That's the cycle. And that's how that cycle continues and continues. That's creation. You see? That's creation. And that is us. That is us and our energy. This is our energy. Ooh. It's kind of unsteady up here. This is our energy. This is what we have to realize. That succession, you see, from the queen to the black mothers, from the prince to the black sons, to the kings, from the kings to the black fathers, from the princess to the black daughters, you see. That is us. And once we start understanding, see, we make a grave mistake when we only look at our own sun sign. Because then we're not identifying all those energies, and then we don't understand how to use those energies, you see. I'm a great proponent of rituals, setting up your altars, doing your rituals, and the reason we need to be doing these rituals is because it will get us adapted to the cycles of the energies, you see. And once we become adapted to the cycles of the energy, it becomes just ingrained, and then we don't need the rituals anymore. It becomes a mind thing. It's when we get sensitive to those energies, we can mentally, activate whichever energy we need to activate to accomplish our purpose, you see. But we have to be sensitive to those energies. And that's by understanding the best way is by understanding these signs, all of them. Understand what their elements represent. Understand, what their modes are and how to use that in conjunction. And then when you look at your chart, you can figure out how to balance your energy. If I'm too practical, too stable, I'm using too much of my earth, okay? And I want to balance it with the water, which is the opposite element of the earth. So I want to become more emotional. So I'll look at the water element in my chart. I'll identify that and see what I need to be, dealing with in order to balance the too much of the stability that I got going on in my life. And it's the same with the fire, because the water is the opposite of the earth and the fire is the opposite of the air. So when you're too enthusiastic, too impulsive, you see, you want to balance it with some air, which is mental, okay? The air is mental. Earth is practical or sensitive. Fire is our passion. And the water is our emotions, okay? For Mother Earth, it's the air, and the earth, the fire, and the water. For us, it's our emotions, our passion, our sensitivity, and our mentality. How do we think? The only thing is that this energy does not activate until we use them all together. What did I say about our wholeness, our fullness? And if you leave one out, you're not full, you're not whole, you're not sacred, you're not operating under the spiritual principles, and that is not going to activate the energies for you. You have to use all the energies. You have to use all the elements, okay? You know, to be in wholeness and fullness and be able to empower yourselves, you know. What I'm speaking is a message of empowerment. That's what time it is. That's what age it is. You know, it's time for us to empower ourselves by understanding these energies so that we can activate these energies to accomplish our purpose, so that we can balance ourselves, thereby contributing to the balance of the earth, thereby contributing to the balance of the universe. See? That's how far our reach is. White folks have a glass ceiling. You know, they give us one on a physical, but they have one on a spiritual level. Their powers do not rise outside of the Earth's atmosphere. You know, ours go all out into the universe, you see. And so what we have to understand that duality, as above, so below, that everything that's happening on a physical level is also happening on a spiritual level, but in its opposition. In its opposition. Many of you have heard me use the analogy of the niggas. Of the niggas, because niggas is really a title. It's a title, you guys. And there is a karmic law that they had to bestow us with our title, you see. But what they did was change our perception of what it meant, see. Now you go look in the dictionary, and it's spelled N-E-G-U-S, niggas, and it means king of kings. King of kings, okay? Because that's the spiritual definition, the opposite of the physical definition, which is the lowest of the low. You understand? Everything that's happening on a physical level is also happening on a spiritual level, but in its opposite, okay? And now that things have reversed from the physical to the spiritual, we're going to start seeing more of the spirit of things, you know. We have much more reason to celebrate, you know, that spiritual influx, because that's our empowerment, you know. All we have to do, we have to start using the tools that our ancestors left us. That's how they're going to return. That's how they're returning through us. Our ancestors are standing on their heads. They're jumping up and down. They're doing everything they can to get our attention. You know, to give us this message, you know. There's no reason for you to be in this condition, you know. But you have put everything on a physical realm. You've cast all your chips there, you know, and that is in opposition to your power. That is in opposition to who you are, you see. You have the power within you to manifest whatever it is you want to create. But you have to know that. Not even believe it, you have to know that. You know, that's what's going to activate it. That's the only thing that's going to activate it. You know, so you have to, you know, recognize who we are. Know who we are. We're part of the royal family. You know, energy-wise, spiritual-wise, you see. And you can understand that by understanding that the spiritual is the opposite of the physical, and where we're at on a physical level, we're at the same degree, you know, on a spiritual level in its opposite, you see. And now that the spirit is becoming the dominant force, you know, and I mean, we're ready to rule the universe, okay? So the tools that we have to look like I started off telling you about these candles here. And when you want to do a ritual, when you're building your altar, make sure that you have the colors of the elements represented. Like I said, the red is the fire, the light blue is the air. And that's the reason I have those two up front, because we're in the Aries energy, which is fire, And the full moon, which is Libra, is the air. So those are the two candles that we're going to concentrate on. Make sure you have your incense burning and your crystals, your stones, you represent it, and your water. Those 4 elements. You know, when you put those together, that's where the power is going to come in at. Other tools, of course. You know, we have the astrology, numerology, the tarots, you know, spiritual mediation, psychic mediation. There's all kind of tools that our ancestors, you know, have for us to access this information, to understand what's going on. But we've been programmed, and just the opposite. We have been programmed not to deal in that area, not to open Pandora's box, but that is ours to go in and empower ourselves with. What we have to understand is that all these tools, you know, like our intuition, our hunches, you know, those things that we've taken for granted that we have not paid any attention to are the things that we're going to have to start focusing on now. Because your spirit has a connection to the universal collective consciousness. That's the one we're talking about. That's the God that everybody wants to talk about. It's the collective consciousness, you know, the one and the all in one. Okay? And your spirit is directly connected to that collective consciousness. So it has a holistic view. And it is always signaling you and guiding you, but because we have been programmed to think, you know, not to pay attention to those etheric things, you know, we have missed the boat, you know. Now we're going to have to start paying attention more than ever, because it's going to give us our guidance and our direction on how to step up to our queenship, our kingship, you know, how to become the princess and the prince of the Zodiac, you see, of the universe, you see. So we have to pay attention to our spirit. That's the only thing that's going to give you the proper direction and the proper guidance, you know. If you're looking for a leader outside of yourself, you're looking in the wrong spot. I remember Bobby Hemmitt saying, when you're praying, you're just putting in a phone call to your own ass. Okay? Understand that. And I mean, and thoughts are things, you guys. Thoughts are things. What you think is going to make instant manifestation on the spiritual plane, only to take a physical manifestation later down the line. Okay? So, if you're putting your energy toward the negative, well, excuse me, feminine. But if you're putting your, you know, I got so many bills, or I wonder if I can, you know, I wonder if he's going to like me, or he's not going to like me, or, you know, I'm just going to have a bad day. You're setting the stage for that. You know, watch your words, watch your thoughts, because you're setting the stage for whatever it is that you're putting your energies. You know, you're energizing that part of who you are. You know, and so it's the three things that stunts our empowerment is our fears, our doubts, and our guilt. Okay? The minute you doubt. See, what happens is the Spirit will give you a vision. And that'll come to you in your dreams. You know, that'll come to you. You just maybe see something out the side of your eye. You know, you could be riding down the street and have a question on your mind, and the billboard pops up and answer that question. That's Spirit. Okay? The more bizarre it is, the more Spirit is trying to talk to you. Okay? So, you know, so what you have to do is you have to, you know, examine that. When you see that, you know, when you see something like that coming up, you have to examine that and understand that there's a message, you know, that you have to try to receive, you know, that's going to give you the proper guidance. So you have to be able to look at those things and understand, be it through astrology, numerology, you know, go get a reading, a tarot reading, or, you know, the pendulums, you know, anything, any of those tools. There's so many tools that we can tap into to understand why this information is coming to us, or what this message is all about. And once we tap into that, we get our guidance from that, and things will blossom. We're getting into the spiritual rotation, and things will open up and things will blossom for us. But as we continue to fight and stay on that physical rotation, to operate from the physical perspective, we're going up against the grain of the universal forces, you see, which is the spiritual forces. That's a wear and tear, that's friction, okay? You can tear down, break down, you see. You're going up against the dominant energy. It's best to get in tune and flow with it, to flow with it, you see. Like right now, we're in the Aries energy. That's the spiritual warrior. That's fire. That's new beginnings, new beginnings. So you want to begin a project? You want to begin something? Is there something new that you want to start right now? This is the energy to work, This would be the energy to work. Understand the earth element, that's about healing and health, the tangible things, You want health, you want to heal someone, you get into whatever, the earth signs, Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. So when the energies, when the moon is demonstrating that energy, when the sun is demonstrating that energy, those are the times when that energy is prominent. That's when you tap into that energy, So whatever is happening, like right now, Aries, fire, the full moon, Libra. So you want justice, you want partnership issues to work out, Now you want to appeal to the air, because Libra falls under air, okay? So you're gonna use that light blue candle, to do your ritual, to activate those forces that are prominent right now to do your bidding, see? This is what you have to do. You have to understand that those hunches, those intuitions, that information, that Pandora's box, those mystical, those occult things, all those things that they have tried to turn us against are the things that will empower us. And that's the reason why we have been turned against it, you see. This physical world is definitely going down. It's going out, And if you want to if you want to invest in that, your time is limited. You're not going to have very much time left to enjoy that, And the reason why, and I say that the ones that are suffering the most right now are the ones that Spirit is trying to move out of the way, because they know this thing is coming down in a big way. And if you've moved on and you've discovered your powers, when it falls down, you don't even have to look back. You don't even have to look back, because you already know that isn't about you anyway. That's in opposition to where you're going. We want the apocalypse. We want to cheer it on. We want to contribute to that. Every time, I know they must think I'm crazy, me and my daughter-in-law, every time a catastrophe happened, we were on the phone laughing our heads off. Did you hear about the airplane that went down? They must think we're crazy. We're sitting up there cheering this thing on, because this is the return. That Saturn energy that was prophesied to return, that is our Father energy. That is representing us. And that is crystallization. That's why they call it the Christ energy. This is the return. That's why they have movies with Will Smith, leading the way to fight the meteors and all, because what they want us to do now, they want to preach a message of love. There's love. They know what time it is. They didn't study the DNAs. They didn't raid the tombs. They know what time it is. And so now we want to embrace them, fight against anything that's coming up against this earth. When they know that's us. Coming over to take over the power and control. And they want us to band with them to fight against our own energy, to stop this apocalypse. This is time, to bring it on. Let it fall down, because it's not a righteous civilization that we're in now. And we're the only ones that's going to bring it in, because we have the ability to tap into that universal, in other words, the laws of the universe is what we're trying to come up under by practicing the principles of righteousness demonstrated by all 12 signs of the Zodiac, okay? And when we start practicing, you know, our values and our compassion and our humanitarianism and our, you know, every last one of these, when we start using all of these righteous principles, then we reversed our rotation to a spiritual rotation. We become full, we become whole, we become sacred, you know, and we become empowered, okay? So we have to go completely in opposition to everything we've been programmed to understand, see. I work a lot better by questions, so if anybody want to start asking questions, I don't know, you know, I can take questions right now, because, yes.
How do you suggest us beginning to tap into our
Okay, like I said, those tools like astrology, that's just not going to work today, is it? Astrology, start with, if you don't have an altar by now, shame on you, okay? Start with an altar, okay? Start practicing your rituals. Start getting adjusted, start understanding those energies, you know, the astrological energies, because therefore you'll understand how to use those energies when you need to use them. You know, start paying attention to all those things that you took for granted, that, you know, you didn't, your hunches, your inner voice, you know, that very first thought that you have is usually your spirit talking to you at the time, you know. There's all kind of tools I have here, the pendulum. Anybody can operate these things. You know, it's energy. If we remember that everything works on energies, that we're light beings, okay? That's why they say don't go to sleep with your radio and your TV on, because when you do that, you zoom right into that frequency. When otherwise you would be astral traveling, you see. See, we're that susceptible. That's that melanin. That melanin is what gives us that you know, it makes us ultra, you know, absorbent to the energies, okay? So, you know, get all those tools they call. I say I'd rather you call me a witch than call me a Christian, okay? And you know what time it is. You rather, you know, get into all those things, the voodoo and all that. Don't be scared. All those things that they scared us away from, you start, you know, perpetuating. You start looking at, you see. This is get your pendulum. That's just one of the simple things. It works on your energy. You ask it a question, my name Myra, you know, and it'll start making this movement, yes or no, sideways, no, you know. Energies, tap into your energies, okay, whichever way that you can do that, you see. So I would start with your astrological chart, because that gives you a universal view, you see, and then you can fine-tune it by other tools, you know. I've been having real good success with the tarot cards lately. Very good success with that. These are things that came from our ancestors, see, and it has to do with the energies, and so identifying those energies, understanding those energies. So that's the biggest thing. Tune into your spirit, you know. That's the first thing. Yes.
First, I'd like to thank you for your presentation. This was my first time hearing you, and it's always beautiful to see a woman.
Thank you.
My question is astrological. As we into the time of Aquarius, and I know my chart, and I study astrology. I have my Llewellyn calendar, and I keep in tune with things. And when people tell me, you believe that? They're all off. They're saying that whole calendar is the 6 AD. The whole universe is changing. What they call the spring equinox, we had 11 and 12 days off. You can't go by that. And I'm at a point where I'm saying, well, they say you can't even be an astrologer going by books. Where's your telescope? I mean, how would you gonna go by them? You gonna call them the devil, and then you gonna read their books to go by them.
No,
so I mean,
yeah,
I want you to comment on that.
Yeah, and I tell anybody, I am not a literal person, okay? and there's a reason for that, because my Mercury is in Sagittarius, which is like in the opposite element, you know, and details just fade away from me. I can ride around in a car all day, talk about the universal forces, but I can't tell you what color that car is. That's how details escape me. I say, in regards to that, I don't usually get into arguments about details of things, the calendars, the time clock, and all of that kind of stuff, because I think at this point we're supposed to be superseding all of that. You know, we're supposed to be going to a symbolic understanding, which is not tied down to any literal meaning or one meaning. We're going to put a bunch of meanings under one symbol, and we're going to get a symbolic understanding, so we're not tied down to those little details. And according to you understanding astrology, according to where the universe, remember who we are. Who are we? We are the gods or the universe, right? Our consciousness, reality is what we create. So if you see today as April 6th, whether it's April 6th or not on any other calendar, you have created the reality of April 6th for yourself. You understand? We create our own reality. So use that in the sense. In other words, the energy is going to operate from your reality. You understand? You know, so they can't use that argument against you because, you know, this is the reality that you are absorbing, and that's the reality that you're going to supersede the literal meaning of and put it into a broader and a more spiritual understanding or overstanding that's going to leave that little detail of it, you know, that's just a little small fraction of what's going on. So it really doesn't have much bearing on what you're creating. Okay? So don't let them hang you up with that. Don't let them hang you up with that. That's your reality, and you're creating from that reality. Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Do we have Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Most of us do when we're dreaming in our dreamland. That's when our soul is freed. Sometimes when there's a message, I am. You know, but if it's not, you know, if there's not a particular message that I'm supposed to be getting, then most of the time I don't remember. We all dream, but we just don't remember those dreams. Okay, so most of the times when I don't remember my dreams, I figure I went so deep that I'm not able to bring it back to because remember, the subconscious and the conscious are opposites. One's physical, one's spiritual. Okay, so you're trying to bring a spiritual understanding into the conscious or the physical realm. That's the reason we lose it so easily, you see. Remember, two opposites can't occupy the same space at the same time. You know, one has to give way to another. So most of the time when you can't remember is because you went so deep, you know, that it's just impossible for you to bring it back to that physical world or that conscious mind of yours, you see. Yeah. Yes. Oh, okay. I don't really know anything about it, but I would be very much suspicious of it, you know. I'm telling you guys, these people understand. Okay, you want to know whether or not I know anything about some sleep clinics. Okay, and they pay you to come in and sleep. And then they analyze that, yeah. Okay, yeah, I would be very suspicious. Be very suspicious of anything that's going on in this world, especially when it has to do with energy, when it has to do with our dreams, you know, when it has to do with anything spiritual or ethereal, anything that, you know, because white folks have been understanding this for a long time, and they are tapping into that. They know what time it is too, and so I would not trust the fact that they are trying to interfere. I mean, they're trying to interfere. You know that they're spraying their foods. They're doing everything they can because we're getting help, you know, from other galaxies and stuff, but they're trying to circumvent us opening up by interfering with that. So don't volunteer to go into anything that's going to give them a way to interfere with your transformation, you know, because it's transformation time. So I wouldn't deal with it. Yes?
Yeah, you were saying when you fall asleep, not to leave on the TV. I mean, you know, a lot of nights I leave on Coltrane or something, a CD.
Coltrane is good. Yeah, okay, well, I mean, Coltrane is good and all, but still, you're still going to zoom into that frequency.
What I'm saying is I love music.
Yes, yes. I do too, and I always used to sleep with my music going, but I've just been, it's up to you. It just depends on what you want to deal with. If you want to deal with, there may be just particular times when you're trying to get some insights that you may want to leave it off so that you can reach another level, you understand? So it's all about what works for you, you see. But understand that if you want to leave it on, that's the frequency that you're going to stay at. And if you want to get any higher or go any further, then you're going to be limited to that frequency, you see. So you can maybe pick and choose how you want to do that, But if you want to get farther out, then turn it off. Okay? Yes. Yes.
When you were talking about traveling to other astral planes, I had an experience where I had eaten something right before I went to bed. And when I was raised up out of my body, I thought I was still physical. And feeling that I couldn't get out of the cell.
Oh my.
So I go through the door, I couldn't get out of the door. But when I checked into my body, I realized that, I wasn't in my body.
Ah, okay.
So I stopped eating things.
Yeah, before you go to bed, because it was weighing you down. I guess it, for whatever reason, it would not allow you to, you see. One of the things is we do have to cleanse ourselves of whatever it is that's going to prohibit us from, reaching different levels. And that's a unique thing for each individual. Okay, so don't let anybody tell you, don't do this or don't do that, or it won't happen, because whatever it is, your spirit demonstrated that to you. It said, okay, if you eat, you can't go. Okay, somebody else may be able to eat and go, but for you, pay attention. That was the way of your spirit giving you that information, so that you do not eat before you go to sleep. Because it just wanted you to see how. That's why you were able to see yourself, because it wanted to demonstrate to you how far you would go after in conjunction obedience. So, yeah. Yes.
We were talking about guides and tools. What books would you suggest on trying to get a good understanding of how to use the tarot?
Oh, okay. Well, any deck you buy, okay, any deck you have, they're gonna always include some type of book with it. And of course you can go to any metaphysical store and get books on the tarot and stuff. But mainly the thing is to get your deck, and they say it's best to get it by a gift rather than buy it yourself. Okay, it works better that way. So you can go and get any deck, and the thing is to study your deck. Okay? And when you first get a tarot deck, what you need to do, you have to wrap it in something silk or red or whatever. Sleep with it under your pillow, for a few nights, putting your energy into it. You need to study it for yourself. Study the book, study the cards. What you want to do is to get your own understanding of what these metaphysical principles are representing, you see. So it's not about really studying the books. It's about you tapping into the information, internalizing it, and being able to use it that way, you see. So, we got to be more dependent on our spirit than we have been, okay? Because it definitely will give you guidance. All you have to do is listen to it. But look more towards your spirit to show you or to give you the feel of it than any book. Just, with the deck, study the book that comes with it, study the cards, and then let your spirit take it from there. Okay? Yes?
What's your interpretation of so many young people not wanting to hate?
Well,
They want to love.
young people not wanting to hate. Okay, young people wanting to love. I think it's the level that they came in on, everything at, you see. Their reality, they haven't really tapped into the reality that those of us older have, When we came into this reality of oppression, it was more blatant at that time, And now the reality they're coming in, they're not seeing, they're getting a picture that is not showing like I was reading, what's her name, Dr. Crescent, she was saying that the white folks really hate black people, okay? They aren't really seeing the demonstration of that because they have gotten more subtle in that at this time. And so they've been, you know, kind of fooled by the idea of let's be friends, you see. So they just haven't really experienced much of the reality. When we come in, we saw the hatred toward us. We saw that, we understood it, you know, and so now that we're at this level that we are at now, where they're perpetrating this friendliness, you know, we can see through that where they haven't had to deal with that. You know, they don't have a reality to base that on as to, okay, you know, I saw them before like this, and now I'm seeing them like this, you know, so I know how they operate. So, you know, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska, which is snowman. And the thing is, I met this black lady who lived in outside of even where the black people live in Nebraska, and with all the white folks. The more you live with the white folks, the more you know them, and the more you really understand who they are and where they're coming from. Because you get to see every nuance of, you know, how they are, who they are. And so I think that the young folks just haven't lived enough with the reality of who they really are to understand what's going on, that they're just being deceptive now. They're just
But
trying
what
to...
about seeing your peer group being incarcerated for little or no reason whatsoever, 3 strikes?
Yeah, well, see, this is one of the reasons why we have to come out of this personal, literal level, because most of us are living only on a personal reality, okay? That it's not me, you know, it's not somebody close to me, you know, they're not affected by it. One thing one of the main messages that our ancestors was teaching us was about the community, the whole, okay? I heard a lecture by Dr. Clark, who was saying that he doesn't believe that there was any homosexuality in our African societies because it was all about the community, you see. And if it didn't promote the community, it had no place within that society, okay? So it was all about, you know, what's good for the whole, what's good for the community, what's good for me. Well, we're not living that reality now. We're living in a reality where it's personal. It's about me and what works for me. Right now, we have to start investing in the whole and let it have personal repercussions. That's how everything is going to turn around. But this is what we're starting to learn, starting to understand at this time. Reverse that. I'm only involved in what's personally going on for me. We have to understand that what's going on a whole is what's really going to work personally for us. But if we're not living that reality, if it's not happening to me personally or somebody close to me, we don't really care. That's our problem. We don't care. You know, so that it doesn't make an impact.
I'd like to add to that. Our generation, we was on our knees getting crumbs from them. This young generation sitting to the table getting the pie with them. They in Hollywood, they all over the air, the network. So they don't see what we see, what we think. They figure, hey, they okay. I got this nice job. I'm in Hollywood now. I'm a Will Smith. I'm a Destiny Child. I'm a
Right.
Shantae Moore. I'm making it.
Right, and then that's what's being promoted too. You see, when our young folks look at who's getting paid, you know, it's the ones putting out that message of, you know, it's like, okay, they getting paid, so they following after, like he said, those that are sitting at the table with them. They're saying, well, if I be like so-and-so, then I'll get paid too. So the image that these people that are getting paid is promoting is what's keeping our young folks in confusion. Yes.
How do you suggest connecting with people who don't believe that they have the power, family members and people that you know that refuse to believe that they have power inside them? How do you suggest getting to them?
The best thing for you to do is probably, I would take it to the spirit, okay, rather than trying to deal with them directly where they would rebel. One of the Gemini is the energy of understanding. So when the moon or when the sun is in Gemini, then would be the time to say, put forth that command to bring understanding to your loved ones. Get the energy to work for you. Okay? That's what we have in power. Okay? We don't have to do things from a physical. We can do it from the spiritual. Okay? Yeah.
Well, first of all, I want to say a couple things. I'd like to thank you and commend you for the presentation today. But secondly, what it did was remind me of a few things. And what I found, I need to just make this confession, that a lot of times I'll get lazy. If someone asks you a question about whether, what books they could read, there's no quintessential book